like to first say that we're going to continue our closed session. We were unable to get to one item till afterward. If there is any comment currently on closed session, we can do that in the public. Seeing none. And I will open the regular meeting of the City of Yuba City Council, April 18, 2017. Let's see here. Public comment. Anybody wishing to make public comment on any other items that are not on the agenda? Okay, moving on to roll call.
Mayor Cleveland.
Here.
Vice Mayor Didball.
Here.
Councilman Buckland.
Here.
Councilman Condroza.
Here.
Councilman Harris.
Here.
And we're going to start off with an invocation by Council Member Buckland, and actually I will lead the Pledge of Allegiance this time.
If you'll bow your heads as I pray. Almighty Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of those that are gathered here tonight. We're truly blessed with your presence. We ask for guidance and a clear vision so your efforts of staff and council will be of a benefit to those who live and work in this community. It's in your most blessed name that I pray. Amen.
Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, moving on to presentations, Public Safety Report, Police Department, Chief Rob Landon. Looks like you have a few with you too. Tag team.
I brought some backup. Good evening, Mayor Cleveland, Vice Mayor Didball, council members. Thank you for having us here this evening. We're here tonight to talk about the semi-annual public safety presentation, to give a brief update on where we're going and what things have happened, transpired in the last few months. I'm going to talk about the little bit about the basic structure. I won't cover too much on that. We'll talk about calls for service, update the uniform crime reporting for Part 1 crimes for 2016, talk about the areas of emphasis for 2017, then I'll open up for any questions after that. And I always get this messed up. So these are some photos from last year. This is the Peace Officer Memorial in 2016. And just for a reference, it happens every May, and it'll be coming up in the very near future. So we would invite all of you to be there in the at the ceremony, which honors all the fallen officers for the past year. And unfortunately, it happens every year. Another highlight of the 2016 year is our National Night Out, in coordination with all our neighborhood watches, with the help of the council and the city staff. Go out and ride with the officers. We go to different neighborhood watches. We get input from the community, and we have the opportunity to interact with the community in a positive manner. This is up on the north end of Yuba City, where they actually had Assistant Chief Garcia there thanking the police. Some of the group of people that went out with us last year prior to the event. We all meet at the police department, get different assignments to make sure that we cover every single area in the city, and we attend all the neighborhood watches that are holding the National Night Out meetings. We do have fun while we're out there sometimes. And that was dangerous too, so don't try that at home without a vest. We have 64 sworn officer positions. Currently, we have 4 positions that are vacant. But of those 4 positions that are vacant, we have 5 backgrounds in progress. So 3 of those are going to be slated for the upcoming July 1st Academy in Butte College. One is a lateral officer who was promoted. He made sergeant. He was hired as a sergeant at Red Bluff Police Department. He's coming back as an officer. He wants to come back home. And the 4th and 5th person is also in the academy currently. We're waiting for them to graduate. Their recruitments are not finished yet. I did want to show a video at this point in time just to show some of the efforts that we have made with the help of Human Resources. And this is a recruit video off the web page. If you go to our web page, you'll have a whole section there on all the different positions on the right-hand side, from the cadets, the recruits, the reserves, volunteers.
What's important to you? Yuba City is a great place to work and live. We're looking to grow the Yuba City Police Department family. The Yuba City area offers excellent recreational opportunities and is proud to maintain the perfect balance of urban convenience and the friendliness and charm of a small town.
Geographically, it's positioned well, relatively close to the mountains and close to the ocean. To me, it's just fit the bill, and I've been very, very happy my 26 years here. These are our former chiefs, starting with the most recent on the right, and going back through history here.
Yuba City Police Department gives you a sense of pride, family, community, unity.
I had a choice of a lot of departments to choose from. I looked around, I looked at what I was drawn to the most, and this community kept drawing me back. The agricultural base, the size of the city, the opportunity to work with the people around you, not just the department, but the city. It just continuously drew me to this area, and that's why I chose this. And it was a choice for me, and it'll be a choice for anybody that wants to be here. It is a choice, but it's a good choice, and I've been happy for 23 years. I love the fact that I get up in the morning, I get to say goodbye to my son, and I know that at the end of the day,
What's important to you? Yuba City is a
So this is my fault right here.
To better accomplish our goal.
This is the
quality
recruit
of
video that we
equipment
wanted to show.
definitely
The
makes
other
it
one's
nice
for
to work
laterals.
here. It's a great environment to work in.
What sets the Yuba City Police Department apart from other departments?
I've really noticed the difference between where I came from and where I'm at now. The training is as good as any training I've ever heard of anyone getting. And
I'm going to put you on the right one. This is my fault. I told Terrell the wrong one. If you go back to the beginning. Or the clip of this before this one.
Including SWAT, K9, motor.
Giving that to us to help give us the tools that we can use to.
Like family.
You come into it wanting to help people, and you're wanting to find an avenue to where you can do good in your community. I was born and raised here locally, and at a point in my life, I want.
Figure this out real quick. We're going to go back to the web page, and then on the recruit section on the right hand side.
If being a police officer is your dream, join us.
Once you put this uniform on, you're not an individual. You're part of a team, and you have to have confidence in yourself and in your ability to do things, do the right thing at the right time. You gotta have a dream. It's not your everyday job. They gotta have passion for it. They gotta be part of their community.
The Yuba City Police Recruit Program offers a unique opportunity to attend the police academy and start your law enforcement career within 1 year.
If you're in a spot where you can take advantage of the Yuba City Recruit Program, I would jump on it wholeheartedly. It's going to do nothing but help you get a step up on everyone else coming in that hasn't taken advantage of that hasn't had a chance to go on rides, hasn't had a chance to be exposed to report taking and all the day-to-day stuff that we do.
Being informal probation, searchable for stolen property.
We sponsor people to attend the academy. They're employed through our agency that entire time. Once they graduate the academy, they start the field training program in which they're trained and shadowed by a senior officer. It's a great opportunity for them to familiarize themselves with our agency and how we do things while attending the academy and going through and learning the job.
Opportunity of a lifetime is to be able to get paid, go to school, get your on-the-job training, and then you go straight into a job.
We have an excellent cadet program that allows youngsters to kind of get a better look at what law enforcement is actually about, and they can be in a vehicle riding with police officers and kind of get an idea of what they're thinking about getting into.
Prepare yourself mentally for a career that is full of excitement and uncertainty. However, it is a very rewarding career.
We're looking for more local heroes to protect and serve our community with pride. For more information about Yuba City Police recruit opportunities, visit www.yubacity.net/policejobs. What's your dream?
So on our webpage, what we've tried to do is we've tried to increase our presence in social media to reach out to people who wouldn't normally look at the Yuba City Police Department. And we have to reach them through the means that people are going to pay attention to. We have different sections on there. We were down 10 officers at one point last year. Right now, currently, like I was just showing, is we are fully staffed, and I knock on wood whenever I say that, in the sense that we have more people than we have positions for, but we do know there is going to be some attrition in that, and that those positions are not currently filled, so we have 60 people on the payroll right now, with 5 more looking at coming in. We have other things that we're looking at. Vice Mayor Didball came up with a program where she wanted to do what we call one-stop recruitment, try to do the process in one day. We're looking for that in the near future, probably this summer for the January Academy, depending on what our staffing level is, how the Walton annexation, or not even the annexation, but the providing police resources to the Walton area. So if we do that, we are going to need to hire officers, and we want to keep the recruitment progress moving forward. Right now, we feel very confident that we're in a good place as far as getting there. This is Assistant Chief Garcia and Commander Tapie, and Assistant Chief Garcia has worked very closely with Human Resources to make sure that we continue our efforts, and we don't have that period like we did last time where it was a stagnant no hiring because we didn't have any positions open, which causes us to drop out a little bit. People don't look at us as much, but we do feel we are definitely the employment choice for this area, and we want to maintain that image. We have 25 civilian staff at the police department. 3 dispatcher positions are vacant right now. We just got a brand new opportunity to hire laterals, which is similar to what we do with police officers. We bring them in basically at the same step that they were at their other agency, if we can match that. We don't sell money as the goal for bringing people in here. What we try to do is sell our quality of life, the sense of being able to live in your community, the sense that you become a part of it and you can go see your kids at school, that you can interact, and every decision you make impacts them also. So we have new lateral testing in place, and we definitely have a couple of good candidates. We have 7 candidates for that. We cover 14.65 square miles, and we currently have 5 beats. The types of calls that we respond to probably over 40,000 calls per year, and these are the main calls that we do respond to. Number 1 is suspicious calls. Number 2 are alarm calls. We do have an alarm ordinance that try to maintain and minimize the amount of false alarms that we're responding to, but I'll tell you right now that between 97 and 99% of all alarm calls are false, and they are 2-person calls, so they take up a lot of our manpower and a lot of our staffing time, and we do try to reduce that through different avenues, including ordinances. Disturbance calls, welfare checks, follow-ups, domestic violence, transient calls. That's one that's been on the increase, significant increase. We're spending a lot more time, we notice, responding to that, not only throughout the year, but even at the beginning of this year with the high rise of the water in the levee areas and the inside of the levees by the riverside, which creates a lot more of them to come up to the Yuba City area. And it does create a large backlog of calls. And the 911 calls, we responded to almost 1,000 last year. A couple more pictures of our canines. We have 2 canines at the police department, Gunner. And just recently, I believe it was April 5th, a week ago or so, we had the opportunity to participate in a what they call a competition. It's the Commander's Cup at Travis, or the Commander's Competition at Travis Air Force Base with 28 other agencies in Northern California. 2 of our teams went. It's Officer Gibson and Fasco, and Officer Souls and Gunner. They finished 3rd. Let me make sure I get this part right. Officer Gibson and Fasco placed 3rd in the open search and 5th in the protection areas. But overall, they finished as the top team and won the Commander's Cup, which is they're showing the plaque right there. So out of all 28 teams in Northern California, I'm proud to say that our department finished number 1. A lot of hard work on their part. Last year, we did see a significant increase in a lot of our crimes, but I want to put that in perspective in a minute. Homicides went up from 0 the previous year. They went to 8 last year. Violent crimes were up from 216 to 272. Contributing factors include it was a statewide increase in crimes and increase in property crimes, and we are showing the same trends in Yuba City that they're experiencing throughout the state of California. When you displace 10,000 prisoners out of the jails and you put them into your community, there's going to be a reaction to that, and that's what we feel a lot of our increase has been attributed to that. Same with Prop 47, which reduces the amount of time that people are spending in prison, reducing a lot of felonies to misdemeanors, and filling up our jails. So they have to go somewhere again. They're coming out into our community. We are working with the California Police Chiefs Association, the League of City Managers, and a bunch of other people to make sure that our voice is going to be heard in the upcoming years. So looking at a quick explanation of what Part 1 crimes are. In about 1920, the International Association of Chiefs of Police envisioned the need for statistics to chime in to make sure that our nation was reporting the same type of crimes in the same manner. The FBI began collecting data on 7 offenses because of seriousness and frequency of occurrences. These serious crimes are known as Part 1 crimes, and they're also defined as either violent or property, and they include homicide, forcible rape, robbery, and aggravated assault are considered violent crimes, while property crimes include burglary, larceny, theft, and motor vehicle theft. Arson is the 8th Part 1 crime, but because of the problem with reporting it, it's not currently being used. The FBI uses crime rates for making more equitable comparisons between different population bases. These rates are calculated by dividing the number of each crime by the total population of each city area and then multiplying by a constant number of inhabitants. For the FBI publication, Crime in the United States, it's 100,000 inhabitants is used. However, because we don't have 100,000 people in Yuba City, we do 1,000 persons. So these charts are calculated per 1,000 inhabitants because our population base is smaller, obviously. So I'll show you that in just a minute, but going from the last 3 years, 2014 through 2016, you'll see an increase in larceny thefts, an increase and then a decrease in burglaries, an increase in motor vehicle thefts, decline, then an increase back of assaults, aggravated assaults, robberies have gone up, rapes have gone up, then back down, and then homicides went up. Now this is going to give you more of a total picture from 1998, and we'll just use a couple different increments here to show that our current figure is 33.9 per thousand. But if you look at that compared to past history, although we did go up last year from 30.4, if you go back over a 10-year period, you'll see that we went down significantly from what it was in 2006. In 1996, you'll see that it was 2 times higher and almost 3 times higher in 1988. So although the crime rate has gone up from last year and over the last couple of years, the trend is still down from where it was significantly. Net 5 is our regional task force that's assigned to handle all of our serious drug cases. These are some of the statistics. I know without a comparison you don't realize what they are, but these are some very high numbers. In certain areas you'll see methamphetamine is the number one next to marijuana in total volume, but that's the drug of choice. Cocaine followed by heroin, butane honey oil labs, and we've been working with Mayor Cleveland trying to figure out if we can get an ordinance with some cooperation from other agencies or surrounding areas. The firearms, the currency, arrests, search warrants, probation, parole searches, consent searches, gang arrests. The Yuba City anti-gang enforcement deployments, which we do every month, is a one way that we're trying to use the regional resources instead of just depending on our own local officers. We work with CHP, Yuba County, Sutter County Sheriff's Departments, Marysville, and Wheatland to do anti-gang enforcement at least once and twice, usually twice a month, where we go out and just do probation searches, parole searches. When we have a history or a violent crime that just is committed, a homicide or something that we feel is gang related, then we pull out all the resources. We'll bring them from all over the state, and we'll try to make an impact by serving all the search warrants and paroles searches that we can. Different things for Net 5, and the bad thing about Net 5 right now, or one of the problems that we are working through, is that the state is no longer associated with Net 5. They pulled out all their resources, so it's basically a regional task force that's funded by Yuba County, Sutter County, and Yuba City Police Department, City of Yuba City, and then other agencies are providing officers into there. But the majority of the money comes from 3 agencies. It hasn't gone away. There continues to be a big history of drugs in this area. You'll see on the right that there is definitely a theme of Norteño, the red there, indication of that. And this is from a recent search warrant. Recent search warrant. So going to the other departments, we have patrol, investigations, and administrative support are the 3 main departments in the police department. Investigations staffing, we currently have 4 detectives, 1 sergeant, 2 community service officers, 1 annuitant, which is a retired officer who we bring back for a minimum, for a 1,000 hours, basically 960 hours a year, and he doesn't get benefits, but he provides that past experience and the ability to work with us. We had 8 homicides last year. There were 7 arrests on 4 cases in those homicides, which means that some of them had more than one suspect. And then we made a cold case arrest from 2005 or 4. In that ballpark. It was around 2004, 5, 6, where a suspect who was shot in front of gang-related case in front of the old Taco Bell on Bridge and Gray Avenue. We made 2 arrests on that. And that was from our annuitant through his hard work. It does show you one thing, though, that when we're dealing with gang cases, they don't happen fast. They don't get solved overnight. Nobody wants to come forward. It's not the relative type thing who you normally see in a homicide where you can get the usual list of suspects, whether it's the family. You have known associates. When you're dealing with gangs, you're talking about somebody that probably doesn't even know this guy, not associated with them. Nobody wants to talk to him. He may not even be from this area. So it makes the cases a lot harder, but we don't give up on them. We will not give up on any of these cases until we are totally exhausted every single lead that we have. And that has not happened on any of our cases that have remained, any of our gang cases. We will continue to work leads on all of them. We assisted in several Sutter County DA predator sting operations, 3 human trafficking investigations, and what we're trying to do, what's very huge for us, is to get back out in the community as often as we can. They've provided 20 different community trainings. Some other accomplishments, 2008 was the shooting at Bridge and Gray, I'm sorry. Some of the initiatives for investigations are to continue to try to regionalize more. In the past, we've had the problem of trying to be our own little missile silos, and everybody doesn't share information. You'll see a lot through this missing person for Ali Yeoman, where we're working together. We're sharing information, we're sharing resources, and we want to make sure that we're playing good together to make sure that everybody gets the best value and the most crimes. There's no silos in between us. So our department is trying to meet with the other investigations on our regular meetings. Business partnership meetings, we want to get the community involved. So we want to bring back the businesses in our regular meetings and provide education. And we're working to increase our crime scene processing capabilities, and you'll see that in the upcoming budget with the purchase of a new vehicle, or the request for a purchase of a new vehicle that will help us respond to crime scenes more effectively and efficiently. The priorities that we've set for 2017 and working with the council, city staff, and our community from listening to them. Gang suppression and violent crime suppression, we want to continue and maintain that and increase our gang awareness training throughout the schools. We have, we're very excited to say that in the last, in this year that we've brought a new community policing coordinator position available to us, made available to us, and they will be coming on board here very shortly. The testing starts May 8th, and we'll have them on by the end of the year. One of their big emphasis is going to be on the GREAT program. Net 5 and gang task force maintenance to make sure that we are supplying the necessary personnel and carrying our share and making sure that we're working effectively with our partners. We're looking at a police department parking lot expansion this year. As the department grows, we're running out of room, and it's become a priority to make sure that we keep our employees safe and a place to park at night. Realignment Proposition 47, we're going to continue to work with all the other partners and see what we can do to make an impact on how that affects us. We want to continue and bring on volunteers and increase our citizens academies. That's going to happen with the community policing coordinator. The Walton annexation, we want to provide police services for this area. However we get there, we want to make sure that we're prepared for that. Staffing, which we're working on diligently. Filling of ancillary positions. As these positions fill up and our staffing gets up to level, we want to make sure that we're backfilling our investigation positions that have been open and our traffic, so we can make traffic a higher priority. We had the addition of the community policing coordinator. We're looking at a shift change in the very near future. Currently, we are on a 3-12 schedule. We're going to a new schedule. What we're trying to do is make sure that our officers are out there at the time when we need them to be out there, and the training is happening to make sure that they're staying current on all the practices. Citizens engagement, the community policing coordinator is going to play a big part in that to make sure that we are doing our meetings with the community and to make sure that we're doing our local coffee with the cops. And they will be the planning of that. We passed a new massage ordinance. The illegal fireworks ordinance will be coming with a partnership with all the staff, and that'll be coming before the council in a special meeting on April the 25th, next Tuesday. Maintain clean and safe Yuba City. Another thing that I wanted to show you that we've talked about for several years is Commander Tappy is going to show you the body-worn cameras.
I'm wearing the
camera we issue our officers. We've just issued these out for the entire patrol force. It's a data 911 camera, and that's important for us because it integrates with the what's the mobile audio video system that we've invested in and we have in our vehicles already. So this particular body cam works really smoothly with that system. It's all the same company. So right now, this is this model will be replaced probably within the next year with an upgraded version. However, Data 911 knew we wanted to get started with this, so they supplied us with these cameras, and each officer actually has two because of the recording capability, or the amount of capacity is not enough to go through a 12-hour shift. So we've issued each officer two, and we have policy in place for how to use it. Everyone has been trained in it, and we're working through the practice of getting people used to using them and so forth. There are a few bugs that have occurred, but we're working very closely with IT. Have given us really good support to get through that and to make this just another routine piece of equipment for us.
Yeah, please. And we did this. We had a group of officers and staff get together and decide on which camera they wanted to use, because I didn't want to unilaterally impose something on them. So there's a lot of things that went into this officer safety. We want to make sure it's not showing a bright light, and we feel like they're the best model. One thing I skipped over real quickly was the hiring of 2 new community service officers, and that's going to happen also in May, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to bring those on board. So in closing, I just wanted to show that we are below similar city crime rates in California. We're below the national average. We're less than half the crime rate of 20 years ago. Gang Task Force and Net 5 presence and a Regional Crime Fighting Alliance, we continue to maintain that. And although the crime rate is trending up, statewide trend, we are more focused than ever to keep this a safe community. And I think the best way to do that right now is through regional alliances. With that, I will open it up for any questions the council may have.
It looks like Councilmember Buckland. Previous, please.
Well, yeah, retired. But I guess once this annual report, Chief, I find this very, very useful. This is a well-written document, really explaining the expertise, the commitment, the professionalism and education of the department, and the efforts that officers and the unsworn or the non-sworn staff go through to be able to provide police services to our community. There's only one little part, and I'm going to sound like a old jaded motor cop, but there's a deficiency, and I think it's in our community, and that's just the amount of citations that are being written. Again, not as a method of generating revenue. It's more about safety in our community. As I drive around through the community, I see frequently motorists that are moving at a high rate of speed, failure to stop at stop signs on an ongoing basis. And I don't know when people figured out that you can make a U-turn 10 feet from an intersection, but that seems to be the frequent trend that is going on within the city. It's concerning to me because of the amount of folks that are on bicycle, on foot, and everything else as other alternate modes of transportation, and then just looking at the sheer numbers and the enforcement index. The optimum goal, as indicated in here, is 25%. And we're just half of that. So I would really, as a member of council, and certainly listening to complaints from the community, would encourage the police department as a whole to take the issue of traffic enforcement in a very, very serious manner, which is currently being done, but the allocation of time and resources to that effort would be much appreciated, I think, to the community. But an awesome job on solving and working through so many different crimes this last year and providing a very safe community. And that's what our police department is best known for. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Your points are well made, and that is one of our goals, to bring our traffic unit back up to full staffing, which will help in that area.
Through the mayor. The work that the police department does for this community, I have to say, for my family as well as the community in general, you feel very safe. So appreciate all the hard work that constantly goes into making the department better and striving for more each and every time. One of the points that I would like to make for future preparation is with our marijuana situation, with the recreational, as it's passed. It's something that we should constantly think about, how we're going to be proactive. So in some of our priorities for next year, I would like to see how we're going to go ahead and document marijuana situations that come up under the influence of driving, how we can do more community efforts to get the word out, because that's something that is going to influence this community in a big way. So I'd like to see us be more proactive towards that.
Thank you. Points well taken also, and we will definitely continue with the community health forums and then whatever we can provide from the police department also to make sure that we are staying up to date on our statistics. Absolutely. And tracking.
Thank you.
I would not have said anything except I have to echo what Councilmember Buckland said, because I've had an extreme increase of complaints to me about running red lights, just blowing through them, not stopping at stop signs, just kind of slowing down, looking, and just going through. Almost caused me to get in an accident 2 days ago because somebody just blew right through a turn on a stop sign. It was just like, didn't you even think about stopping? And so I had to, lay on the brakes pretty hard. So I think, don't worry about raising the revenue. Do whatever you got to do. As you said, it's not a revenue thing. It's we need some of these people to start complying with these, because we're really, really getting bad. Marked increase over the last 2 years of complaints that have come to me. So if it hadn't been mentioned actually this morning with a meeting with somebody, I might not have said anything. But they just pushed me over the edge on that. And then my own experience. Other than that, no, wonderful report. Looking forward to the National Night Out again this year. And that was a great one last year. So with that, any more comments? Absolutely. Councilmember Harris.
Great report, Chief, and congratulations on everything you guys have done. I want to bring one thing. I wanted to go back a little bit when you mentioned your canine crew, #1 out of 28 teams. That's outstanding. So that's something to be very proud of. I know it's not easy it's very training intensive and labor intensive, and you have to really have some dedicated people to even have a viable program, let alone #1. So I know from personal experience, we got the benefit at the end of a pursuit the other day. Somebody didn't want to come out of his car, and Gunner was able to encourage him to come out anyway, only way a canine can. So that was quite pleasant. I think it was Gunner. It was one of the two. But thank you for that, and congratulations on that. I would just repeating myself if all the kudos you guys do. But thank you for all you guys do. It's not an easy thing to do. Your 24/7 operation. Your folks with 8 homicides, you went 0 to 8, and you've solved so many, even the cold case. I mean, that's outstanding. And you're making us safer, and we're better because you guys are doing what you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our staff will be very happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anything else? Okay. Appreciate that report.
Commander probably wants his camera back. It took video of you all after I passed it on.
Yeah, you pushed a couple buttons on it, or at least one is. So please erase.
They can't.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, practical joker. Okay, we'll move on now to ordinances. Number 2, rezone of 2.1 acres property located on the south side of Woodward Street, west of State Route 99. Arnaldo.
Mayor, members of the council, Arnoldo Rodriguez, Development Services Director. The item before you this evening is the second reading of a rezone application that was originally considered by the City Council at the April 4th, 2017 City Council meeting. Just as a refresher for both the planning or in the City Council and the community members, this proposal is a request to reclassify roughly 2.1 acres from the CM zone district to the C3 zone district. The proposed rezone application is consistent with the city's general plan, which again was adopted in 2004. The primary reason for this rezone request is to bring the property into compliance with the general plan, and also it expands the possibilities for development of this property from a light industrial zone district to a regional commercial zone district. The regional commercial zone district is a predominant zone district along Highway 20, and it can be found catty corner. For example, the mall site is actually Zone C3, so it's consistent with the center itself. The property itself, it's located in the southwest quadrant of Highway 20 and Highway 99. Its access is currently to Woodward Street, which is a nondescript road just south of Highway 20, as you can tell from the overhead. So with that being said, staff is recommending that the City Council approve the proposed rezone application and waive the second reading this evening. Thank you.
Any comments from the council? Seeing none, looking for action.
Move staff's recommendation.
I'll second that.
First and a second, all approve?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous vote. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, and then again, you're going to be on the recreational and medical marijuana cultivation interim urgency ordinance.
Mayor, members of the council, Arnoldo Rodriguez, Development Services Director again. This item before you is a proposal by staff for an interim urgency ordinance for the regulations pertaining to the cultivation of both medical and non-medical, which is commonly referred to as recreational marijuana. As the council knows, the city currently does have a medical cultivation ordinance, which I'll discuss in a handful of slides. However, it is limited to indoors to a maximum of 75 square feet. However, since the Compassionate Act of 1996, the marijuana industry in the state of California has largely been a moving target. So roughly 21 years, there's been a lot of different assembly bills, a lot of Senate bills, a couple of different acts that have been approved by the voters. And with that being said, that's largely left a lot of both cities and counties just to somewhat try to respond to those changes in the regulations. A couple of things in terms of where the city's currently at right now. The city of Yuba City, again, does permit the cultivation of medical marijuana indoors limited to 75 square feet. The city does not currently allow the cultivation of recreational marijuana, nor do we allow in any zone district the sale of marijuana, either for medical or non-medical purposes. It's actually called out in our local zoning ordinance that the city does not allow the sale of medical marijuana. So just for the benefit of the council and the public, the medical marijuana regulation and Safety Act was approved in 2015. Subsequent to that, Proposition 64, which was approved by the voters November of 2016, which went into effect immediately, was passed. And that's, again, it's commonly referred to as Proposition 64. However, legally, the proper term would be the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, again, of 2016. So a couple of things that Proposition 64, attempted to establish was a comprehensive system to legalize and control the cultivation, the processing, the manufacturing, the distribution, the testing, and the sale of non-medical marijuana, again, recreational marijuana. The other thing, 2 items that it did, is that it stated that only persons over the age of 21 can smoke marijuana for recreational purposes. And the other key thing is that it also established a taxing system for the sale of recreational marijuana. A quick overview in terms of the key differences between the Medical Marijuana Act, again from 2015, and the Adult Use, which is the Recreational Marijuana Act of 2016. And I don't necessarily want to belabor this. However, I just did want to highlight a couple of things, which really the key thing is the personal cultivation, which is the third row down. Under the Medical Marijuana Act, the act itself did not alter local jurisdictions' ability to regulate the cultivation of marijuana. Therefore, the city could adopt a local ordinance to state that the cultivation of recreational marijuana is prohibited, and that's our current code. However, with the passage of Proposition 64, that actually stripped away the locals' control of the cultivation of marijuana, and what that stated is that a local jurisdiction has to allow the cultivation of marijuana for recreational purposes. However, there's a nuance there, and I italicized it intentionally. It states local governments may reasonably regulate but may not ban indoor cultivation for personal use. And again, italics were simply added for emphasis. The term reasonable under Proposition 64 is currently not defined. I've spoken to a handful of colleagues of mine. We've reached out to a handful of attorneys. We've watched a handful of webinars placed by the League of California Cities. We've heard a lot of discussion about this. The term reasonable, again, has not been defined. The overall consensus is that eventually the court system will probably define what the term reasonable is. So currently, right now, in terms of our ordinance, we feel that the ordinance that we're proposing this evening is consistent with Proposition 64, knowing that it could potentially change based on some court case. However, there is no litigation, to my understanding at this point, either challenging or attempting to establish what that reasonableness is currently. So, so in terms of the emergency ordinance, again, this would regulate both the cultivation of medical and non-medical marijuana. The purpose of an emergency ordinance, it's pretty straightforward. The ordinance itself, if City Council were to adopt it this evening, the ordinance itself would go into effect immediately. So as soon as the City Council adopts it, should that be the case, it goes into effect right now. The key thing with an emergency ordinance is that it does require 4/5 vote by the City Council. However, an emergency ordinance is only valid for 45 days. Within those 45 days, the City Council may extend it for 10 months and 15 days. And then subsequent to that, or within kind of that 10-month period, the City Council may extend it for an additional 1 year. So staff is currently proposing, again, an emergency ordinance. However, our goal is to come back with a more permanent solution, either within the 45-day time period or within a 10-month time period. Any extension, by the way, also requires a 4/5 vote of the City Council. A couple of key differences in terms of where we're at today in our current regulations and versus what we're proposing as part of the interim ordinance. The residency requirements, currently, the code stipulates that the primary, a person that has, that's currently cultivating marijuana for medical purposes does have to reside on the property. What the new ordinance would stipulate is that a person over the age of 21 has to live on property. And again, that's simply being consistent with Proposition 64. Outdoor cultivation is currently not permitted, and we are not proposing any changes to that again. So as part of this ordinance, we're proposing that that it remain indoor cultivation only. So again, no outdoor cultivation. Indoor cultivation would be limited to 75 square feet, which is what we currently have on the books, and 6 plants. The 6 plants specifically is called out as part of the Proposition 64. And another nuance here, it's the last bullet point, proximity to sensitive uses. Currently, our local code states that there be buffers from sensitive uses, primarily schools, daycare centers, and I think religious institutions, if I recall. Under Proposition 64, a local jurisdiction cannot add distance requirements. probably under a worst case scenario, hypothetically, a property owner could have indoor cultivation and that property be adjacent to a school. In terms of the ventilation system, we do require that the property provide a ventilation system to try to mitigate any potential odors that are generated from the cultivation of marijuana. That's currently on the books. We're not proposing any changes to that. The sale of marijuana would continue to be prohibited. So while people can actually grow the marijuana for cultivation purposes and for personal use, they cannot sell it. If they sell it, that's still technically considered in the sale of an illegal substance, and they could be arrested. There is a registration. That registration fee is currently $46, and it's valid for 2 years. There's no proposed changes to that. And the penalty, if someone were to violate it for, hypothetically, say someone was growing outdoors, there is a violation of $250 per day. That fine is currently $500. However, with the passage of Proposition 64, that again limited the maximum fine to $250 a day. So again, these changes are simply being facilitated by Proposition 64, not necessarily because we think they're good ideas. So as we move forward, again, the marijuana industry has been very fluid for roughly 2 decades. Since the passage of the first act going back to 1996. Moving forward, as legislation comes before us, or quite frankly, as court cases make different rulings, there are a handful of things that we as a local community are going to have to make some decisions, or we'll probably have to have some of these discussions. And this is not necessarily for discussion tonight. However, there are probably things that we'll probably be discussing in the future. And that's the delivery of marijuana. And that was passed by Assembly Bill 266. And that simply states that if a local jurisdiction does not adopt a local ordinance either permitting or restricting this, the delivery of marijuana within its boundaries, the state of California would in turn regulate what a local jurisdiction can do. That has not gone into effect. However, that would go into effect January 1st, 2018. The commercial cultivation of marijuana, this ordinance still continues to prohibit it. Testing laboratories, a testing laboratory, from my research, I don't want to say that it's front for cultivation for commercial purposes, but from speaking with some of my colleagues, that's usually how they'll come in and say, we're a laboratory and we're testing the negative effects or positive effects of marijuana. Can we please establish a cultivation in your community? And it's really not for testing purposes, rather it's for commercial cultivation. Mobile vending, that's also identified in Proposition 64, and then also commercial storefronts for the sale of marijuana. So again, while these items on the overhead are not before the council for consideration this evening, at some point these are items that staff would like to have, would like to bring back, at least simply for discussion purposes. The one that's probably the most pressing here, obviously, being the delivery of marijuana because of Assembly Bill 266. So with that being said, this project is exempt from CEQA purposes, so therefore it is not subject to CEQA. And with that being said, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt the interim urgency ordinance enacting the development provisions for development or for recreational and medical marijuana cultivation. Again, it would go into effect immediately and it would be valid for 45 days. Within that 45-day time period, staff would either be returning to the City Council with a permanent solution, or we would be returning to extend the existing ordinance that's before the council this evening for, again, 10 months and 15 days. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Arnaldo. Are there any comments or questions for Arnaldo from the council?
Through the mayor.
Yes, Yuba.
I know these are state regulations that are coming down, and we're trying to do this in the best interest of the community. I have huge concerns with the sensitive areas. Is there any way that in our ordinance we can up that ante? Because you know, we're going from the 700 feet minimal from schools and 350 feet from to no requirements whatsoever. That just doesn't fly very well.
So that's an excellent point. Roughly 10 days ago, I happened to be on a webinar hosted by the League of California Cities, and I asked their legal counsel a very pointed question, and that was my question. Is there any avenue for local jurisdictions to, via its police powers, to attempt to regulate sensitive uses? And their response was no. And then I obviously said, well, the term reasonable is not defined. And their legal counsel advised that a local jurisdiction can try it, but at the end of the day, quite frankly, the court systems are probably going to determine what's reasonable and what's not. They advised against it. So currently, from my understanding, it's that local jurisdictions cannot regulate and distance requirements like we currently have in our local code.
And how about the penalty as well? Same thing.
Same thing.
Can't up the ante or anything.
Correct.
Have we consulted with our own counsel?
Oh,
Councilwoman Preet, DeBall, excuse me. Yeah, I've looked at the language of Proposition 64, and like Arnold said, it allows cities and counties to reasonably regulate the cultivation. But then the actual language, which was adopted by the voters, goes on to say, however, the city or county may not, and I'll have the language right here, may not completely prohibit the cultivation. So my opinion is, which is in accordance with, I think, all the city attorneys that I've talked to, we all agree that Proposition 64 does not allow us to have those distance barriers because it specifically says we cannot prohibit the cultivation. So if somebody lives close to a park or a school or a child care center, that would be and we had a distance barrier, that would violate the provisions of Proposition 64. That's just our opinion. It's not going to be confirmed unless it's challenged in court. But in my opinion, that's pretty clear. The language speaks for itself. It would be in conflict with the Proposition 64 if we did that.
But reasonable is not defined yet.
Reasonable is not defined, but the Proposition 64 goes on to say, even though you can reasonably regulate, it specifically says you may not completely prohibit the cultivation. So we can regulate it, which we do, but we can't completely prohibit it. And if we had distance barriers, we would be prohibiting that activity within that distance barrier.
I get what you're saying. I just have a hard time with, I understand under the urgency ordinance, but it's something to take into consideration for future, because previously, just with the medical, we had the requirement to have that there. And now all of a sudden it's recreational under this approval for both medical and recreational, and now we don't have those type of requirements.
Because of Proposition 64,
right.
the language of Proposition 64, which was adopted by the voters, is very, very clear.
Right, and I get that. I get that. I think as a city, it's something that maybe in our future discussions of how we can work with that. Because it's, as a community, to see that this would be close to our schools and our childcare and so forth, you know.
I understand your concern, and I share the same concern, but the language of Proposition 64 seems very, very clear that we're not allowed to do that. Now, if a court of law disagreed with that opinion, then we'd be free to proceed. But in my opinion, like I said, other attorneys agree with me that we're no longer allowed to do that under Proposition 64.
I get that. That's fine.
Councilmember Cardoza.
No.
Nothing? Okay.
Do it, Mayor.
Council Buckland.
So just for clarification on rental properties, there would still be the requirement that the owner of that property would have to give permission for cultivation?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we weren't excluding the owners of rental properties at all through this.
Anybody else? Saying no more comments. I am going to, because there are representatives of the community out there that I know are interested in this. They have not expressed anything, but is there anything from the community that would like to speak? You have to go up. If you're going to speak, you have to go up to the podium and say your name. Thank you. There's a door. No, there's a door on the right side over there. Yeah, it's okay. You're doing fine. First time.
My name is Jody Hernandez. I live at 1502 Dana Way, which is on the corner of Queens and Dana. I have worked in the schools, so I am absolutely concerned with marijuana in our schools and for our students. I've seen huge problems with it. I've worked with in-school suspension students. What I want to say is that the mere fact that the 21 and over age requirement is in place is a big help with that, because I believe, because then we would be able to prosecute more fully people who provide marijuana to those under age 21. I think that could possibly help with that. I do understand, honestly, the restrictions that are in place do not prevent people from growing marijuana close to schools right now. It's not preventing it. It doesn't do anything. However, the fact that 21 and over is in place, it is legal for those of age of consent at that age. I honestly think that it would help in being able to prosecute those who do provide marijuana. It involves gangs and things like that. And I think it would help. So possibly that would be a solution to the concerns with that, or part of a solution to the concerns, since we are kind of hands tied with that kind of thing. Anyway, that's just my piece I wanted to say.
Appreciate your participation. Seeing nobody else, I bring it back to the council for more discussion or looking for action.
Through the mayor, if I may.
Yes. Councilman Harris.
Arnaldo, by listening to you in this, it seems to me that marijuana is here whether we like it or not. And what you've put together here, and you did a very good job overlaying the two, by the way, and thank you for that. It makes it very clear and helpful.
Thank you.
This is the most restrictive we can be and still be in compliance with 64, it sounds to me. Is that true, in your opinion?
That's my understanding, correct?
It sounds like it to me, too.
Yeah.
There's really nothing more we can do to tighten it up on it.
Yes. So with that being said, though, I think while it's currently an interim ordinance, I think if there happens to be any cases that happen to go through the legal system, staff would come back immediately to the city council based on those. So in this document, I would say that we largely have to treat it as a living document, very comparable to how the local jurisdiction or to the various assembly bills and senate bills that are going through and the different acts. So I think if we treat it as a living document, while today we may not be able to regulate it, if there happens to be a court case that makes it more restrictive, staff would can be back before the city council for that consideration as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Looking for an action?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Wow, they jumped. Seeing a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous vote on this too. Thank you very much. Very good discussion. And we will be living with this for a while. Okay, moving on to public communication. You are welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on items listed on the agenda when they are called. Public comment on items not listed on the agenda will be heard at this time. Comments on controversial items may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. Did we have any written requests?
None received.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to go before and have 3 minutes? Seeing none. Consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time that council votes on the motion, unless members of the city council or staff or public request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. Okay, I know that there's going to be something on number 8. I think we need to pull that off the list for now for separate vote. So I'm looking for action. Actually, 6, 7, 9 through 12.
Through the mayor?
Yes.
I'll make staff's recommendation through 6, 9, 7, and 12.
Okay. 9 through 12, yes.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Good. Now on number 8, let the council members kind of comment as to why.
Through the mayor,
Yes.
I need to abstain from item number 8 since I live in the district. But I'll go ahead and vote on items 6, 7, 9 through 13 as a yes.
Okay.
Likewise.
Okay. With that, there's 3 of us to vote, so I'm looking for action on item number 8.
Move staff's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing no opposition, it passes.
Your rates are going up.
Appreciate
that. You were gone too long. Okay, moving on. General items. The establishment of a community facilities district for municipal services, and presented by Darren Gale, Economic Growth and Public Affairs.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. This evening I am before you to discuss the establishment of a services community facilities district. In 2004, the City Council adopted a general plan, and after that, the City Council adopted growth policies. They wanted to ensure that as our city grows, that development pays its way. And one of the items that were part of these development standards growth policies were that new development projects that were developed within the city would need to establish or create a services community facilities district to pay for their fair share of services being provided as a result of this new development. Since that time, we've only had a few projects that were approved. There's 4 of them. One of them is an older one that was Sutter Heritage Project down on the corner of Smith and Walton. We have Valencia Estates, which is currently being underdeveloped, or is currently under the process of being developed on the north side of town. We have a Walnuts Estates project, and we also have Faith Christian Schools has a map that was adopted. Those 4 projects have the requirement of having a CFD for the new homes when they're developed. Since Valencia Estates is currently being improved for homes, hopefully to be built this year by Interwest, we need to move forward with the process of establishment of a community facilities district. As a result, we have contracted with New Economics and Advisory and Public Financial Management, and they're here this evening, and Isabel I'll introduce, and she'll come up and walk through a presentation about the CFD. She can answer any questions, and then I can answer any question. Tonight, what we would be requesting as an action item from the council is to continue moving forward with this item, and that we'd come back in May for the actual beginning of the resolution of intent. We will then start meeting with property owners, and then the finalization of a services CFD if the council encourages us to move forward this evening. So at this time, I'll introduce Isabel with New Economics and Advisory to talk about a CFD.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. My name is Isabel Tomeko with New Economics and Advisory. I'm joined here tonight by Jesse Walker, also with New Economics and Advisory, as well as Russ Branson, who's a principal at PFM Group Consulting. The 3 of us are working collaboratively with the city to form a new CFD. As Darren described, the city previously expressed interest a few years ago in forming a services CFD so that new development could pay for the costs of providing new services. And so now that we've come through the recession, development is moving forward. This effort is intended to move that forward. So we're here tonight to provide just a very basic overview, just a reminder of what a CFD is, how it's formed, what projects would be included in the CFD initially, what the services are, what that might cost in terms of a tax rate, and what the next steps would be. So a CFD is a community facilities district. It's a mechanism that allows a property to be taxed in order to fund infrastructure or public services in that area. In this case, we're proposing to form a CFD that would fund services. So this chart here shows the basic formation process. We are right now in the first box, which is pre-formation. We're identifying the projects that would initially participate in the CFD. We're establishing what services would be included and what the rate could potentially be. We would like to come back, if you encourage us to move forward, in about a month for the first City Council meeting to adopt a resolution of intention that would officially establish the boundaries of the CFD. It would establish the name, it would identify the types of services, and it would set a time and place to finalize this. Then about a month after that, which would put us in June, we would come back once again asking you to adopt a resolution of formation, and that would officially establish the final boundaries, the actual final tax rate, the services, and the services that would be funded with those rates. We would also set the election, and it is our hope that the projects that would participate in this election would waive the need to have a separate election, and that could also occur concurrently with this second council meeting. So this map shows the location of the projects that are initially being contemplated for inclusion in the services CFD. These 4 projects put together, I think, comprise about up to 520 residential units. This list shows the eligible services that are allowed through the California State Code regarding CFDs. These are the items that are the services that can be funded. The bolded ones are the ones that we're focused on. Some of the other ones already have funding mechanisms in place. The rates themselves will adhere to the California Code requirements. We're working with staff to finalize and refine the rates. They will be less than $425 per unit per year. There will likely be a single family rate and a separate multifamily rate. These rates will only be charged to developed properties. So there needs to be a house there in order for that property owner to be expected to pay for services. And again, the goal is to ensure that new development is paying for new services. So the next steps are Darren is leading the outreach to landowners. As I said before, we would come back to you in about a month if you encourage us to move forward to approve a resolution of intent to form the CFD. Then about a month later, we would come back again for the resolution of formation and hopefully also the landowner election, which is required after the formation is completed. So in summary, we would like to form the CFD by the end of June. It could initially include about 517 units. The rate will not exceed $425 per unit. And we would come back to you in about a month if you encourage us to move forward. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from council members? I don't hear any. So the only thing I'm seeing here, and make sure I have the right understanding, is that the hope is there will be unanimous landowner acceptance of this, and we can move forward without going to the landowner election.
So, Mayor, each one of these projects, as part of their development agreement, have agreed to adopt into a CFD. If for some reason a property owner is unwilling to adopt into this CFD, they will have to pay for their own process to establish their own CFD to the city's liking. But we will be coming back to you before the council meeting with property owners here to move forward. So of the 4 development projects, let's say 2 of them just don't want to move forward with the CFD for right now. We will remove them from this CFD and we'll move forward with the projects that want to. However, they will not be able to develop their projects until they do enter into a CFD.
So this is the quickest and least expensive for the landowner to do. Then we're kind of basically helping them along by doing this.
That's right, and each one of them knew that there was more or less a maximum amount that CFD would be, which was 425. The Sutter Heritage Project was 425 plus another 125 for roads, but we're maintaining the 425 since that's what the other 3 projects have included.
Great. With that, I guess there's no more question or comments. I'm looking for direction and
Through the mayor,
action.
I'll make two staff's recommendations to continue forward for this.
Anybody else?
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, let's help these landowners move forward so they can develop easier. Thank you. All right. We have Mr. Ben Moody, State Route 20 Median Improvement Project.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. The item before you is in regards to the State Route Median Improvement Project, which is it's a median that many are familiar with on State Route 20 between Stafford and Clark that's paved and ugly. The city's been working with this project for a little bit of time to work with Caltrans. It's in Caltrans' jurisdiction to put a project together that meets our standards and is aesthetically pleasing and also leads to a better image for the city and economic growth potential for the area. So over the last relative few months, we've got approval from Caltrans for an encroachment permit. It took some time. With it being in the state right away, the Caltrans needed to approve the encroachment permit and then the city take on the maintenance of that proposed area so that we could maintain it at a level that we want. And so with that approval, we went out to bid. We went out to bid in February, March, and then in April, a portion of April. We extended the bid 2 times due to lack of interest. We had a real hard time getting contractors interested in the job. We reached out, tried to find out what's going on. Why can't I get anybody to bid on this job? And it's just it's a relatively small project with a high risk. It's in Caltrans' jurisdiction, which has additional oversight. It's on a busy highway, limited staging, work hour restrictions at night. Nothing really positive about it that I could attract bidders. And then additionally, the work's primarily landscape work, where landscapers typically don't take on a prime contract to kind of be the lead as the prime contractor for the job. And so after reaching out to besides sending it out to the exchanges, the newspaper, we contacted local contractors directly. Asked what we could do to try to make it more appealing to bid on it, and we ended up only obtaining one bidder that would purchase the plans. And after discussions and so we had the bid opening in April 5th. The one bid came in high, and so their engineer's estimate was $186,000. The single bid received was $260,000, about 40% over the estimate. When we were doing the review, it kind of came back with what we thought. The one guy knows that he didn't have any competition, so there's some fluff in there. And then, looking at the engineer's estimate, we felt pretty confident with our number, with the recent work being compared to the same work we did on Bridge Street. These medians are real similar, and we took that number on Bridge Street and we understood that, hey, the quantity wasn't as much, and the Caltrans issues in the night work, so we bumped up those numbers 20%, and then we took another 15% on there for contingency items, and we still, I think with the lack of, with a small reward for the high risk, we couldn't get that interest for that type of work. So with that, there's a few options in the public contract code. You could cancel the project, you could rebid the project, you could award it and pay the higher cost, or we want to look into option 4, which is basically in the public contract code. It says that if the local agency could do it through force account or by its own means at a more economical, reasonable price, that we could directly subcontract the work. So instead of bidding that work out to a prime contractor who then subcontracts it, I'm going to go directly to the subcontractors and say, hey, give me your best bid, and then we'll enter into a contract with the subcontractor and coordinate it. And so staff has reached out. We feel strongly that, you know, there's a lot of money left on the table, and there's some options for reducing costs, and that we could do it cheaper and within budget. And so with that, I'd like for your consideration tonight that we reject all bids and authorize, adopt a resolution rejecting all bids received for contract number 16-14 SR20 Media Improvement Project, and authorizing the city to use force account to complete the project per Public Contract Code Section 22038. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any question or comments from council members? I actually have a little bit here regarding the funding sources for this project. There was SACOG funding for this project or anything, or is it just purely our project funds or road funds, or what is this?
It's a combination.
I cannot remember.
It's a combination. We budgeted through the CIP. There's $100,000 that was a SACOG grant fund with some local funds.
No, if we were to cancel, SACOG would take the money back, correct?
Yes, we are on a time constraint, and that scope has been approved.
That's what I wanted to make sure was people were aware of. So we have to use this, or we will lose it, and it'll sit the way it is. And we do have a minimal amount of our own funding there, and the possibility of even coming in lower than the than what you're even saying on the savings of the 186 is there, correct?
I believe if
by going through our process.
We go through our process. We're taking out the middleman, and we have some options for value engineering with minimizing the cost with Caltrans and some of the work scope.
Okay. That's all I have. Guess now I'd have looking for some action.
Move to approve staff's recommendation.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, hearing that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Go out there and get it done. Thank you. And with that, moving on to class and salary adjustments within the Public Works Department. Diana Langley, Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the item I have before you tonight impacts two different positions within the Public Works Department. Number one, the senior engineer. I'm looking for a 10% compensation salary increase, and then also creation or changing the Deputy Public Works Director Utilities position to Assistant Public Works Director Utilities. So first, to address the senior engineer. In this current fiscal year budget, City Council approved changing an assistant/associate engineer position to a senior engineer, and that was based upon workload within the engineering division. We went out and did a recruitment and did not find any candidates that we would hire. We did a compensation survey. The compensation survey showed that the position is 11.8% below median. And so what we're proposing tonight is to increase the salary by 10%. One of the things that the engineering division fortunately has two extremely competent, capable senior engineers that work on multi-million-dollar projects for us on a daily basis. One's working the project manager for the Fifth Street Bridge. The other one works on utilities projects and has brought in millions of dollars worth of grants. When you look at other agencies within the local area that have recruited for senior engineer recently, that includes Chico, Sacramento, West Sacramento, Grass Valley, Yuba County. So there is competition out there in terms of people trying to get senior engineers. Yuba City is not the only agency that's had trouble recruiting senior engineers. What we ended up doing with that position that we have budgeted is that we recruited at the assistant associate engineer level because we can get a pool of qualified applicants at that level. So that's how we're moving forward with that. But the recommendation before you tonight is to increase the salary engineer compensation by 10% so that we can retain the two fabulous engineers that we have today. The other item as part of the staff report, when Utilities Department was separate from the Public Works Department, at that time we had a Utilities Director, two Assistant Directors, that were one mid-manager oversaw the water treatment plant and the other one oversaw the wastewater treatment plant. With the retirement of the utilities director around 2009, shortly thereafter, the assistant public works director for wastewater moved on to another agency, and at that time, the assistant public works director for water was vacant. When utilities was merged with public works, those positions were changed to deputy public works directors. The lab manager at the time was promoted to deputy public works director wastewater, and we did a recruitment for deputy public works director water, hired a candidate who did not successfully pass probation. And so that position had been vacant for quite a bit of time, and so at that point we merged the positions into deputy public works director utilities, in which that deputy public works director wastewater shifted into that position. He has recently moved to a different position within the Public Works Department, and so currently I do not have a mid-manager overseeing the water and wastewater treatment plants. So what I'm proposing to do is change the position to Assistant Public Works Director Utilities, and I'm doing that based upon the requirements for the position. I'm asking for somebody that is an engineer or has the appropriate certifications in water and wastewater so that they have an understanding of operations and also project management. Another local agency recently went out for a very similar position. In their situation, it was Deputy Public Works Director Utilities, but the pay was equivalent to our Assistant Director. They received 8 applications that met the minimum qualifications, and of that, they felt like 3 people could fulfill the position. And so it's a limited pool of people that have the qualifications to fill this position, but it's so important when you're talking about multi-million-dollar facilities and operations to have that mid-manager position in there to oversee the day-to-day operations. So my request for you tonight is to change the Deputy Public Works Director Utilities position to Assistant Public Works Director, and also with the understanding that the Deputy Public Works Director is budgeted at the step 5, so the very top of the salary schedule. What I'm proposing is that this be budgeted at the step 3 for the Assistant Director position. That doesn't mean that we couldn't bring somebody on at step 1, in which case the fiscal impact would be even less than what's shown. But we just wanted to budget it at the middle mark so that we have a little bit of flux in case there was a really qualified applicant that came through that required that level. So with that, one more note on the senior engineer. Since both of these individuals work on projects, their costs are charged directly to projects. And with the assistant director, the increase in cost would be charged to water and wastewater, split equally. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council members? Yes, please, Mr. Harris.
Just a point of clarification, when I was reading this today, it said 10% salary increase, which is about 28,000. Is that for 2 people?
For 2 people for the entire fiscal year of 17-18.
Okay, so it's 12 months at 14,000 each.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just to clarify, Councilman Harris, that would include all the benefit roll-ups as well. So,
Yeah, it's fully loaded.
Just
yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, with that, I'm looking for action.
Through the mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to staff's recommendation, please.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Pass.
Well, you got 2 happy campers now, Diana.
Oh, they were already happy campers. Okay, with that, we will move on to business from the City Council. Councilmember Buckland, welcome back.
Fairly light meeting schedule for myself since the last meeting. Only the Sutter Animal Services Authority meeting that both Councilmember Cardoza and I attended on Monday. That was just for budget approval, but certainly looking at the longevity operations in that budget of the SASA facilities and equipment. Also knowing that currently there's a recruitment through the city for 2 animal control officers, and hopefully we can fill those positions because we are down to 2 in there. And so anybody that has the aptitude and the ability to be a peace officer in the state of California during the employment hours is certainly welcome to apply for our animal control positions that are open. So, and I know, did we close recruitment, or is it still open? Still open. All right. So that's all I have.
Okay. 2 is not enough. Councilmember Cardoza.
Alrighty, I had a few meetings the last couple of weeks. As John said, was with Southern Animal Services. Also, I had a Regional Housing Authority meeting, and upon that, I've been appointed to be on the Sutter Community Affordable Housing Authority Board of Directors. Attended the Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency meeting and the Homeless Consortium meeting. For fun stuff, I attended the Plymouth Street DBA Twilight Thursday, the first one they've had of several. Well, I'm saying
This year.
yeah, there you go. Anyway, it was their first Thursday Twilight, and it happened to rain that night, so we didn't have any bands on the street of Plymouth Street that night, but next month in May, we're going to do it again and have a lot of fun, be a lot of bands, hopefully a lot of people on Plymouth Street. Chamber activities, had a couple ribbon cuttings, the Northern California Aerospace Initiative. It's a wonderful school, fun. The kids are building a plane, trying to become pilots in the future. It was a great, fun time. Learned a lot of stuff there. And then a gentleman, Computer Works, also had an opening. Participated in Bike Around the Buttes. I did aid station number 1, the one that was 7 miles out where everybody hits us. We took care of approximately 300 people went by that first station. So we had a lot of fun, had fun that day. And then for Easter, I attended the Moose Lodge Easter egg hunt. Saturday morning, we put out 2,600 eggs, had approximately 150 people, or kids, excuse me, and we fed approximately 300 people. We feed lunch to everybody on that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Harris.
I also had a light agenda the last 2 weeks. I was gone down in San Diego visiting my 2 boys, and so Manny, thank you for filling in for me at the SASA meeting. Every other committee I am on was either postponed or didn't have one or was canceled during the last 2 weeks. So it's pretty light as far as this goes. I did have an opportunity to attend every 15 minutes presentation at the Live Oak community. Very good program. If anybody ever has an opportunity to attend one, especially the staged collision scene, I would highly recommend that. We're active in that, of course, in my day job, and it's a very worthwhile program. So it was a pleasure to be a part of that.
Vice Mayor Didball.
Echoing the words of everyone else, it was a really, really light last couple of weeks as far as meetings, but I did get the opportunity to attend the Greater Sacramento Council Conference last Friday, which was really, really informative of how we can stay connected in our region to economically grow. So looking forward to doing some more work with them. The other item I just wanted to bring up is we've gotten the applications for our Summer at City Hall program. So we are preparing to go ahead and start interviewing the kids. I believe we are up to 24 applications, and we may get a few more because we're looking at the independent study students as well. So really, really excited about that program, which will begin June 5th, and graduation day will be June 23rd. Aside from that, speaking of graduation, my daughter is getting ready to graduate very soon, and this last week we just had a road trip, and she has now committed to Willamette University in Oregon under pre-med and biology major, and she will be looking to play Division III volleyball there. So we are very, very excited about this opportunity. So I'm just a bubbly, happy mom. But aside from that, I think it was a pretty calm 2 weeks.
Yes, this spring vacation, or what do you want to call it, the Easter time off, did affect many of the meetings, because that's kind of the week where a lot of them are scheduled to occur. I did attend Center Butte Flood Control Agency, and the number one thing that I took away from this meeting is that they're going to, unlike other communities, because of their scope of responsibility, they're going to continue the emergency declaration that they have, because they deal so much with the riverway itself, and the fact that when they raise the water and lower the water quickly in the river, that you have bank erosion, and in some areas it has gotten relatively close to some of the levees. So they're going to keep theirs going forward on theirs, and that was the number one concern item there. I did have a unique opportunity. It wasn't in our community, but it's called APAPA, and it's the Asian Pacific Islander group that helps them get advancements and then scholarships. I was able to attend that, and I was actually a presenter of some of the scholarship. There were 23 recipients, and then also I presented to the Strawberry Commission, California Strawberry Commission, their state award for support of APAPA. And that was really neat, because strawberries are one of my addictions. And when I found out, that's when I was going to get to present, and it was a beautiful glass sculpture thing. I was kind of happy, because strawberries, I know. Some of the other stuff they were talking about, but nothing to know anything about. So it was fit right in with me. So I was real happy. But they didn't have a bowl of strawberries for me. Anyway, that was a little selfish there. Never had it. No. But anyway, with that, looking for, I don't know. Looking forward to a busy next couple of weeks. Extra meetings coming up on very important issues, and we'll make some reports again. We will not be having a meeting the first meeting of May, since members will be in Washington, D.C., lobbying for some very big issues for the Sacramento region, which we are part of. Water, wastewater, solid waste, economic development, transportation, workforce development. There's some of us are on those teams, and going to be very, very busy and active while we're there. Basically no rest when you go back there. They keep you running. So been successful in the past, and we expect to be also at this time. Okay, with that, I have nothing else. Meeting adjourned.
Mr. Mayor, we're going to closed session.
We will return to closed session for one item. Thank you.